The shuttle broke through the glittering veil of station traffic like a black shard against a river of color. Elias Kael sat in the forward seat, hands folded, watching Valorian Concord station grow larger with each passing second. It was less a station than a world suspended in the void, a ring stretching for kilometers, latticed in silver alloys that caught the light of the twin stars. Its outer surface shimmered with banners projected in alien glyphs, each one representing a power older and prouder than humanity. Inside, whispers would already be waiting for him. The Terrans were the youngest voice in the Concord, and the invitation to this summit had been received with equal parts surprise and suspicion. Elias understood why. Humanity had expanded quickly, too quickly for comfort, and now their presence was unavoidable. The docking clamps caught with a metallic shudder. Elias stood, smoothing the crease of his dark uniform. The badge on his chest bore no rank, only the stylized insignia of the Terran Defense Coalition, deliberate neutrality, designed to disarm alien paranoia. He picked up the slim, reinforced data case beside him. Its weight was ordinary, but the information inside was anything but. When the airlock hissed open, he stepped into a sea of eyes, compound, multifaceted, liquid, and mechanical. The arrival concourse was a theater, balconies lined with beings of every imaginable shape. Conversations hushed, antennae tilted, and feathers ruffled. The human had arrived. A Valorian attendant with 4 translucent wings glided forward. "Commander Kael," it intoned through a translator sphere. "The Chancellor awaits." Elias inclined his head, neither deferential nor arrogant. "Then let's not keep him waiting." They led him down a corridor of glass that overlooked the starfield. Aliens whispered behind the transparent walls, some with tones of amusement, others with sharp skepticism. Elias caught fragments, asterisk. "Primitive engines, crude kinetics, desperate for help." Asterisk, he let them roll off. If humanity's reputation was fragile, he intended to shatter it with precision, not anger. The doors opened into the summit chamber. It was a vast amphitheater, tiered in concentric rings, with platforms hovering in magnetic suspension. Each held the delegation of a different species, scaled monarchs from the Draxii, gaseous forms suspended in containment spheres, crystalline Veari whose voices sounded like bells. At the heart of it all, on a raised dais, stood Chancellor Valeth of the Zerati Dominion. Valeth's appearance was calculated to intimidate. He was tall, insectoid, draped in robes that shimmered with refracted light. Mandibles clicked softly as he regarded Elias, compound eyes reflecting him 100-fold. When he spread his hands, the hall grew still. "Commander Kael," Valeth said, voice smooth and amplified. "On behalf of the Concord, I welcome humanity into the circle of civilizations. You are a young race, untested by the centuries, but we admire your spirit, and forgive your missteps." The applause was polite, measured. Elias noted the tone, not welcome, but tolerance. He smiled faintly. "On behalf of the Terran Defense Coalition, Chancellor, I thank you for your generous hospitality." The Chancellor's mandibles twitched. "Generosity is the heart of progress. We who have endured millennia are bound to guide those who walk behind us." "A noble philosophy," Elias replied. "Though some of us prefer to walk on our own feet, even if they stumble." Ripples of laughter moved through the tiers, mostly at his expense. Valeth's eyes glittered, catching the chamber's glow. "Humility suits you, Commander. Perhaps tomorrow you will find that the Concord rewards it. A gift awaits, one suited to your people's circumstances." The implication hung heavy in the air. Elias felt every gaze turn sharper, the unspoken assumption clear: humans would accept whatever scraps were offered. He met Valeth's gaze without blinking. "We'll be eager to see it." The session dissolved into minor speeches and procedural announcements, but the real theater had already played out. When it ended, Elias withdrew to the guest quarters assigned to him, a compact suite of polished stone and softly humming air filters. He set the data case on the table and, after locking the door, pressed his thumb against the seal. The lid rose with a quiet sigh. Inside, light unfolded in cascading lines of blue. Schematics, models, simulations, the tools of a species that had clawed its way from atmosphere to stars in less than 3 centuries. Weapons designed not for elegance, but for brutal efficiency. Rail cannons capable of ripping apart dreadnought armor. Drone swarms that learned, adapted, and outmaneuvered in minutes. Projectors that mimicked gravitational distortion to blind sensors. Elias watched the models rotate, light reflecting in his eyes. The galaxy thought humans desperate for guidance, but the truth was simpler. Humanity had built weapons the others could not imagine, because humans had never learned to accept limits. The door chimed once. A delegate from the Veari entered, crystalline body shimmering like a prism. It bowed stiffly. "We hear the Dominion will offer you gifts tomorrow," the translator chimed. "Accept them. It is safer." Elias tilted his head. "Safer for whom?" "For everyone," the Veari answered before departing without waiting for reply. Alone again, Elias closed the case. His reflection in the polished surface stared back at him, calm, resolved. The summit had begun as they intended, with pity and condescension. Tomorrow, it would end differently. He leaned back in his chair, hands folded once more. "They think they're giving us weapons," he murmured. "They have no idea what they're walking into." Outside, the stars wheeled silently, indifferent to the tension gathering in the station's heart. The Concord chamber was a cathedral of power. Suspended platforms glided into position as the summit reconvened, their alien occupants gleaming in ceremonial garb. The air shimmered with translation drones, carrying voices across languages, each one bending toward the same expectation: the moment humanity would be gifted civilization. Elias Kael walked to the central platform reserved for him, the same slim data case in hand. The chamber buzzed as he appeared, eyes narrowing, antennae twitching, feathers ruffling. The human was calm, too calm, and his composure unsettled them more than any display of awe could have. Chancellor Valeth rose on the dais, cloaked in refracted light. His mandibles clicked once, silencing the hall. "Friends of the Concord," he declared, "today we extend our tradition of generosity. To the newest of us, the Terrans, we offer the tools of survival. May their children live to see centuries." With a flourish, he gestured. Hollow projectors flared, filling the chamber with glowing models of war machines, sleek plasma cannons, gleaming shield drones, missile systems etched with alien script. Their images spun slowly in the air, accompanied by pulsing streams of specifications. Gasps echoed from minor delegates, a theater of awe carefully staged. Yet Elias noted the careful omissions. No mention of plasma coil efficiency. No data on the latest shield harmonics. These were systems alien powers had abandoned long ago, polished and presented as if they were treasures. Valeth spread his hands wide. Plasma repeaters capable of sustained fire. Shield drones designed to protect even fragile hulls. Guidance missiles with adaptive tracking. These, we gift freely to humanity, so they may step from the shadows of their fragility. Polite applause rippled around the chamber. Several delegates leaned toward each other, muttering in tones Elias had long since learned to translate without words. They'll kneel. They'll thank us. He let the silence hang, then clasped his hands behind his back. "Chancellor, may I?" Valeth tilted his head, faint amusement glinting in his compound eyes. "By all means, Commander. Express your gratitude." Instead of bowing, Elias studied the nearest projection. "Impressive design," he said evenly. "What's the recharge cycle on those shield drones?" Valeth blinked, caught off guard. 7 seconds between full activations. 7? Elias repeated, voice carrying just enough surprise to sting. "Our coil shield prototypes reset in 3. The chamber rustled uneasily. A crystalline delegate shifted, their body chiming faintly. Valeth's mandibles clicked once. "Primitive worlds often confuse theory for practice. These weapons are tested. Proven." Elias inclined his head slightly. "Of course. What's the effective range on the guidance missiles?" 8,000 kilometers, with 92% tracking efficiency," Valeth replied smoothly. Elias's brow furrowed in polite confusion. Odd. Our hypersonic slugs hold 95% accuracy at double that distance. And they don't advertise their trajectory in glowing plasma arcs. A ripple of murmurs swept through the platforms. Delegates leaned forward. Some narrowed their eyes, others exchanged glances tinged with doubt. The theater was slipping. Valeth stiffened. You misunderstand the spirit of this gift, Commander. It is not a contest of specifications but an embrace of... Forgive me, Elias interrupted gently. But if a gift leaves us weaker than we already are, what kind of embrace is that? The silence was sharp, vibrating like a plucked string. Elias gestured to the plasma cannon projection. These weapons scatter heat. Our rail guns deliver concentrated impact with no bleed-off, cutting through armor like paper. Would you suggest we abandon that for the illusion of brilliance? Several delegates shifted uncomfortably. A Draxii monarch hissed to her aid, mandibles clicking furiously. A Valorian fluttered its wings in agitation. The translation drones worked overtime, transmitting shock in every tongue. Valeth's composure cracked. His voice sharpened. Commander Kael, it would be wise to accept what the Concord offers. We know the paths of war. You do not. Elias smiled faintly. Perhaps. Or perhaps we know different paths. We've had to. He let the words linger, not defensive, not proud, but grounded. It was the voice of a man with no need to prove anything to anyone. The confidence struck harder than arrogance could have. The Chancellor leaned forward, mandibles twitching. Your species clings to crude kinetics and brutal simplicity. The Concord refines. We elevate. You will learn this, or you will suffer for your ignorance. Elias regarded him for a long moment, then tapped the data case with one hand. The metallic click echoed in the chamber. Chancellor, he said softly, you've offered us your weapons. Perhaps it's time I show you why we don't need them. Gasps rose, sharp and unfiltered. Delegates craned forward. A ripple of unease swept through the hall. Valeth's eyes narrowed, a shadow flickering across his refracted cloak. Elias met his gaze with unflinching calm. You wanted gratitude. Tomorrow you'll get clarity. And with that, he stepped back, leaving the chamber awash in whispers, not of condescension now, but of suspicion, doubt, and a creeping sense of fear. The third day of the summit dawned with an air thick enough to choke on. The Concord chamber, usually a theater of formality, buzzed with restrained tension. Delegates filled the platforms early, their voices hushed and urgent. Rumors had multiplied overnight, that the Terrans had mocked the Chancellor, that the humans carried weapons the Concord had never sanctioned, that Elias Kael was preparing something outrageous. Elias entered without hurry. His dark uniform was immaculate, his stride measured, and the same data case swung easily at his side. The whispers rose like static as he walked to the central platform. He did not acknowledge them. Chancellor Valeth stood tall on his dais, robes shimmering with refracted light. His mandibles clicked in irritation, though his voice when it came was smooth as oil. Commander Kael. Yesterday you spoke boldly, too boldly. Today, you may explain yourself before the Concord. Elias placed the data case on the podium, palm resting lightly on its lid. With pleasure. The chamber dimmed as he activated the hollow projectors. A bloom of light unfurled above him, spreading into vast projections of Terran warcraft. The first image drew scoffs from some corners, angular ships bristling with mass drivers, coil arrays, and railgun spines. To the Concord they looked crude compared to their sleek plasma vessels. But then the simulations began. A Terran destroyer fired. The railgun slug crossed the screen in silence and tore through a Concord model cruiser, puncturing its shields, shredding armor, and exiting without slowing. A second ship followed, firing in overlapping bursts, each slug carrying enough kinetic energy to tear continents apart. Murmurs rippled. Valeth raised a claw. Spectacle. Simulations are easy to exaggerate. Elias didn't flinch. Then watch the math. The projection shifted to real-time calculations, projectile velocity, armor penetration depth, shield harmonics disrupted by sheer kinetic force. The numbers scrolled, undeniable and merciless. The room's translators hummed as every species absorbed the truth. Another demonstration began. Swarms of Terran drones erupted from carriers, splitting into coordinated webs. The drones adjusted in real time, rerouting when targets shifted, forming adaptive kill boxes that overwhelmed even complex shield formations. Simulations showed Concord ships collapsing under barrages too fast for organic reaction times. A crystalline Vayari delegate whispered, voice like bells cracking. Adaptive, learning algorithms. They reconfigure mid-battle. Elias nodded slightly. We don't build weapons for elegance. We build them to win. The final sequence displayed a Terran gravitic projector, a weapon that mimicked miniature singularities. Concord shields crumpled in the simulation as their sensor arrays fried under distortion. Entire fleets drifted blind, targets for railguns that did not miss. Silence fell heavy. For the first time, no one scoffed. No one laughed. Chancellor Vailith's mandibles twitched violently. This is madness. No species advances so far in so little time. You expect us to believe primitives leapt past millennia of refinement? Elias lifted his eyes to him, calm and unshaken. We didn't leap past you, Chancellor. We refused to stagnate. We never stopped pushing because we couldn't afford to. While you perfected plasma's glow, we learned how to break it. While you polished defenses, we built weapons that didn't care. He stepped closer to the podium, letting his words cut into the silence. You think our weapons crude because they lack flourish. We think yours fragile because they rely on it. The chamber trembled with whispers. Delegates looked at one another, eyes wide, some fearful, some calculating. Alliances were being reconsidered in real time. Vailith slammed one claw down on the railing. You dare insult the Concord by flaunting monstrosities? By claiming superiority in this sacred hall? Elias's smile was faint, almost pitying. Superiority? No. Just reality. He rested both hands on the podium, gaze sweeping the hall. You offered us your weapons, expecting us to kneel. But tell me, Chancellor. His voice dropped to a razor's edge. Why would we downgrade? The words hung, sharp as a blade. The chamber was utterly still. For several long seconds, no one moved. Then the reactions erupted, shouts, protests, gasps. Some delegates stormed out, furious. Others leaned toward aides, already whispering about negotiations with Earth. Fear flickered in crystalline eyes, in feathery crests, in scaled ridges. The illusion of humanity's weakness was gone, shattered beyond repair. Elias closed the data case with a quiet click. Humanity seeks cooperation, not dependency. Respect, not charity. Remember that when you draft your treaties. He lifted the case, tucked it under his arm, and turned without another word. The chamber behind him dissolved into chaos, voices clashing, alliances unraveling, fear clawing at centuries of assumed superiority. In the docking bay, the Terran shuttle waited. Elias stepped aboard, the hum of engines steady and familiar. He sank into the seat and watched the station recede into the void, banners still glowing across its colossal ring. For a moment, he allowed himself a breath of satisfaction. The galaxy would never see Earth as fragile again. They would fear. They would scheme. Some would prepare for war. But none would ever think of humanity as children in need of hand-me-downs. As the shuttle angled toward the stars, Elias murmured to himself, almost a whisper lost in the cabin hum. They wanted gratitude. What they got was clarity. The engines flared, and the shuttle vanished into the endless dark, leaving behind a galaxy forever changed.